what the US has done brilliantly, and I'm talking about the US as an example, just to talk about the power of storytelling and visuals. They've managed to train the world, many people in the world, to feel like America is the savior country.
Yeah.
And if you are having trouble, that they are going to come and save the day.
Living a dream, living the African dream. Brothers and sisters, welcome to the Pan African Hub, the Pan African Lifestyle Show, where we explore the heartbeat of the diaspora, culture, investment, and community building across the continent. I am your host, Harrison Paul, and today I think you're going to like this one. We are honored to welcome a powerhouse storyteller, travel advisor, and cultural connector, Ivy Prosper. Brothers and sisters, you are really going to like this one. Ivy Prosper, welcome to the Pan African Lifestyle Show.
Thank you
How
for
are you?
having me. I'm great.
It's such a pleasure to have you on. You look fantastic. I love the look, honestly. We were talking about it
Thank you.
offline, and I love when I can see Ghana is rubbing off on you. Would you say Ghana is rubbing off on you at the moment?
I mean, I don't really think about it rubbing off on me because I've been here for a while. So I don't really think about what
Mm,
rubs off on me. I've always had my own personality when it came to fashion. I'm
mm,
into fashion since I was a kid. So
mm,
that's something that's just ingrained in me for a long time
mm,
already.
mm. Wonderful, wonderful. No, I'm just loving the really African look, and you're pushing the African attire, and it's really always good to see that when especially when sisters are kind of wearing that African beauty there for everyone to see. So I really wanted to make a note of that and compliment that. But listen, today is such an exciting show. We have some amazing questions for you that I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to hearing. But at the beginning of the show, I like to read the bio for the guest, as I love to see their face light up and just kind of see how it makes them feel. So I'm going to read for anybody who also is watching and wants to know a little bit more about you. Ivy Prosper is an award winning YouTube director, journalist, and respected content creator whose work has helped reshape Africa's narrative and inspire the global Black diaspora. Since 2019, she has played a key role in promoting Ghana through the Year of the Return and Beyond the Return campaigns, which encourage millions of diasporans to explore, invest, and relocate to Africa. Ivy's platform blends storytelling with practical advice on travel, relocation, and cultural reconnection. Whether through high-profile interviews, social commentary, or her coverage of Ghana's most prestigious events, Ivy remains a trusted voice for diasporans looking to rediscover their African heritage and establish meaningful roots on the continent. How does that make you feel, Ivy?
Thank you for the introduction. I appreciate it.
No problem, no problem. How does that make you feel when you hear that?
I mean, it's a reminder of some of the things that I've done over the years. Um, and I just know that there's so much more in store. So yeah, it feels good. Thank you.
And it must have been a long journey. Can you tell us a little bit about your personal journey and what first sparked your passion for connecting diaspora with Africa?
Well, I mean, I've always been interested in, connecting Black people in general. So, growing up in Canada, there's always a diversity in particularly in cities like Toronto where there's a lot of diversity. But I actually grew up in St. Catharines, which is close to the US border. So I often did cross the border to the US. I've always had an interest in the culture of Black people, period. Whether they're Black people from the United States, Black people from Jamaica, from Trinidad, from, St. Kitts and Nevis, from Grenada, wherever. I have been exposed to people from so many different places that I've always found it interesting for us to learn about each other. But at the same time, I always knew that there was a disconnectedness of us because, you know, the battles between each other, being from one place or the other, and then me being an African, originally born in Ghana but raised in Canada, there was this dynamic of always wanting to know a little bit about who I am and understanding who I am and where I'm from and just connecting it all. So just when I moved to Ghana, it wasn't my initial thing. I wasn't initially thinking that I'm going to be doing work that's connecting the diaspora. I just started sharing stories on my personal platforms about Ghana so that people knew what it was like. And slowly people started to be interested in what I was sharing. And then when I was hired to work for Ghana Tourism Authority to work on the Year of Return campaign, that was when I was really focused on doing work that was committed to inspiring the diaspora to come to Ghana. Um, and I did that for 5.5 years. I was with Ghana Tourism Authority doing the Year of Return Beyond the Return. So I mean, that's a short form of the journey ending up here. I came in 2011, stayed for a couple of years, and then I left. And when I left, I went back to Canada. I kept thinking, you know what, Ghana wasn't too bad. There
Mm,
was opportunities there, and there was this level of connection with people, and then sharing the stories. Sharing stories online was something that I always was interested in. So I came back in 2016 and then jumped in doing documentary work for a couple years before I ended up working with the Year of Return. So 2016, 17, 18, I was doing documentary work and then ended up coming to tourism and diaspora relations type of work in 2019 and beyond.
mm. And just to touch on that more personal level, because I really I'm interested in Canada, having spent some time there, or 4 years there myself. You mentioned that you are an African immigrant within Canada, right?
That's correct.
So your parents would have been Ghanaian, and then you would have like had African parents speak with an African accent, and then you
Yeah.
kind of
So I
being
was
the
born
first.
in Ghana, then we came when I was young. And yes, yes. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it. Go ahead. You got it.
You were asking about my parents, and I
N-
interrupted, so my apologies.
No worries, no worries. I was basically saying, did you have the very similar experience to like what like European kids would have had, European Africans, where it's like you are now born in the West, or well, rather being raised in the Western world, but you still grew up in a home of African parents who migrated and the challenges that come with that.
Well, yeah, I think that my parents being Ghanaian had a lot to do with me knowing where I'm from because
Mm,
my mom especially talked a lot about, what it was like back in Ghana. She wanted to make sure her kids knew where they're from. And then
mm,
with language, she made sure that we understood the language because she would speak it.
mm,
My dad spoke it as well, but he had other languages that he also spoke that he never taught us.
mm,
My dad as much as my dad did like and was proud of being from Ghana, he also was very much um, the type of immigrant that wanted to assimilate to the new place that you're from so that you can have a
yes.
comfortable life and not worry
Yeah.
about friction and,
Right.
just assimilate to where you are.
Right. Right.
And so my dad, he like his accent was virtually gone. He virtually had almost no
Wow.
accent. You wouldn't know that he
Wow.
was from Ghana when he spoke English.
Wow.
But my mother is the one who still, had her accent when talking. But I think it was a great experience. I mean, at the time when you're young and you want to be like your friends, especially at a time when it wasn't cool to be African back in the day, like it is now. Like now, people are all like proud to tell you which country from Africa that they are. Whereas before,
Hmm.
there were some African kids who would pretend they're from Jamaica because they don't want people
Yeah.
to know they're from
Yeah.
Africa, and it has a large
Yeah.
part to do with the way that media portrayed Africa as
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
negative thing. So people didn't want to be associated with something negative.
Yeah. And this is this type of stuff that I really love to get into, because when we talk about the discussion of going back home, or when we talk about the discussion of that eureka moment where you realized that, you know what, I think there's a home for me somewhere else, it all stems from a lot of times a realization that, can this place where I'm at ever truly be my home? Sometimes it comes with that. And like you said, that I think that's such a deep conversation in regards to that, the traumas behind that, and not to say what your dad went through, but I'm speaking personally for myself. As African kids, I would have diagnosed that as a form of trauma, because you understand, when you're changing who you are as an African in order to survive, as a survival mechanism in the Western world. it is a form of trauma. So I wanted to actually even delve into that just a little bit, because I do know Canada is it's an interesting place because it's a very young country, right? It's not that old, and everyone there, it's almost like a country of foreigners. I remember Canadians told me that a lot. Like a lot of them there are foreigners that make up Canada. So I wanted to know on a personal level when it comes to identity, just really quickly, what was that like in experience? Was it tough to find yourself? Was it difficult to face, like you say, anti-blackness, and did this steer you towards this direction of Pan-Africanism?
It never steered me that the experiences I had no basis in what steered me towards Pan-Africanism.
Mm,
Pan-Africanism is, I'm trying to think now. It's like, um, my mother always taught us to know our history, know where we're from. She also taught us to understand the history of Black people in America. We
wow.
watched a lot of documentaries growing up on the civil rights movement, civil rights era, understanding what Black people went through, knowing that some of the things they fought for are, what gave certain freedoms, today.
Right.
And some of the things Black people fought for actually benefited a lot of immigrants who ended up going to the United States specifically.
Hmm.
But my mom, I think, making us watch a lot of that content in the back in the day on PBS, the public broadcasting station, for those watching that may not know, they did a lot of documentaries that we would watch, and she would buy the VHS and the DVDs back in the day for us to have at home that we can watch at any time we wanted to watch them. And I think I just always had an interest in who I was and where I was from. I don't think
Mm,
that I had any anti-blackness that steered me to become a Pan-Africanist. I did have
mm,
anti-black experiences, but I don't think that had a role to play in why I ended up becoming somebody who's interested in connecting the diaspora with Africa. I think
mm,
that I always had an interest in the continent. I remember when I used to make clothes, I would sew the Ankara fabrics onto my
mm,
t-shirts. I made clothes. I sew clothes made out of some African prints back in the day. I was really into hip hop music and the hip hop era when
mm.
they had a lot of African conscious, Black
Yes,
conscious
yes,
hip
yes,
hop.
yes.
I was really into that music at the time. And so it's just in me. So I don't think that there's any particular incident that caused me to become a Pan-African. I think it just always has been in me naturally.
Mm, beautiful, wonderful. That's fantastic. For anybody who's not aware, can you please explain to us what the year of the return was, and beyond the return campaigns? Can you explain those campaigns to anybody who maybe watching, who maybe not be fully aware?
So, for those who don't know, the year of return was 2019 when Ghana marked it as commemorating the 400-year anniversary of the first documented ship of enslaved Africans to arrive in Virginia in the US. Now, in doing that, they also recognized that Ghana had the most slave forts of all of the West African countries. And so they invited the diaspora to come home, come to Africa and choose Ghana, learn about the history, the heritage, and connect with your ancestral roots. And while you're connecting with your ancestral roots, you get an opportunity to also explore the country and explore the culture and learn more about who you are as a Black person. And that was also something that was in response to, in the US, they were also commemorating the 400 years in 1619 to 2019. And the US actually had signed a bill, which is the HR 1242, and that bill also recognized that same thing about the ship that arrived in Virginia, and that the US was supposed to be doing programs that was going to, help benefit the African American community. But I don't know if they actually ever did. But Ghana ran with it and it became a huge success. And so after the year of return, with the diaspora coming to Ghana in large numbers, the following year, people were like, well, what's next? What's next? We've come, now what's next? And then the next thing was Beyond the Return, which was a decade of African Renaissance. And so that when it started in 2020, it had this trajectory that was going up, and then COVID hit, and then it just kind of fizzled a little bit. But then it slowly picked up after the borders and stuff opened. But it definitely is a catalyst to a lot of people making Ghana a go-to destination, whether it's for holidays, whether it's just for coming to have fun and partying, or making the decision to invest in the country, or even repatriate and live in the country, or invest in the country through business opportunities and collaborations.
Wow. And, you know, obviously you were one of the people who were not massively affected psychologically by, I just want to say anti-blackness. Fortunate for you, it came from, I want to say, a love rather than a heartbreak, right? But I know that a lot of African Americans, a lot of them, it may have come from a heartbreak, right? But luckily for initiatives such as this, it opened a doorway to see that they were accepted somewhere, and that they would be, valued somewhere. But we do know that a major hiccup in that was Africans getting, or rather American Africans, was getting over the perceptions and the narratives that were placed upon Africa. What impact has your initiatives had on the perception of Africa amongst American Africans? Like, I'd love to know that.
Well, those particular initiatives that Ghana had definitely had a huge impact. Also, what I do on my own YouTube channel and with my content with talking about Ghana definitely has had an impact, because people see things that they didn't expect from Africa. So, for example, I remember posting pictures of myself and my friends in Ghana on my social media, and I had a friend from the US who was looking at my content and said, that doesn't even look like you're in Africa. It looks like you're just around the way where I am. You don't look like you're in an
Mm,
African country. And it's like, well, what were you expecting? And the
mm,
expectation is always a look of, poverty,
mm-hmm,
or you know, disease, war
mm,
torn, some of the
mm,
negative images that they're used to seeing. So to
mm,
see a group of people just hanging out somewhere and smiling, and it's like a modern looking place,
mm.
wasn't something that, he and other people are used to. So I think that the images of sharing, people having good time, whether it's at restaurants or festivals or, hotels, whatever it may be, the things that people are sharing about their daily lives on social media and through the strategic marketing of Ghana through the Year of Return and Beyond the Return campaigns and other campaigns that people have been doing. And now Ghana has what they're calling the Black Star Experience with the new government. All of these things are things that are promoting Ghana in its own unique way that is attracting a lot of people. And Ghana has become a hotspot to the point that other African countries have asked us how we did it. When I was working with that office, we had people who would come from other African countries asking how they did it. And, and subsequently for me, since I left that position, I have had people reach out to me from Kenya, and people who were doing stuff for the Gambia, who also wanted to know how can they market their country in similar ways that people will be excited in the way that people are excited about Ghana.
What makes Ghana so unique in that way? What makes it so unique? Let us know. Share the secrets here on air today.
Ghana has a unique story that other people cannot duplicate. That's the challenge. Is people are kind of coming in like, well, how would they say, like behind the eight ball? They're coming in already. It's like Ghana's already leading the race, and others are just trying to catch up.
Right.
So I think that Ghana keeps attracting people because Ghana has a history of Pan-Africanism. Going back to what you brought up earlier about
Mm,
Pan-Africanism, Ghana has a history of Pan-Africanism since country's inauguration, since March 6, 1957, when the country
mm,
became independent
mm,
from a colonial rule. The first president, President Kwame Nkrumah, invited Dr. Martin Luther King to come to his inauguration. And Martin Luther King was a huge, huge major figure in the civil rights era, civil rights movement in the Black community. He went back and shared what he thought about Ghana and how he felt seeing Black people who had become free and going back to America where the people were still being going through the segregation and all of that. And it ignited something in him.
Mm.
And so Kwame Nkrumah, being the first president, he went to a historically Black college in the US. And in that, he actually joined a fraternity. And in coming back to Ghana, he wanted to make sure that his brothers who and sisters who are in the diaspora knew Africa and that they would come to Africa. So Ghana has this history that has helped it when it comes to these campaigns. So throughout the years, you had people like Maya Angelou, W.E. Du Bois, Malcolm X, who were making trips to Ghana. And,
Mm.
you know, then you have in 1992 Panafest, which is the
Mm.
Pan-African festival that started inviting the diaspora, which is a huge festival. The diaspora started coming at the time, you know, and and then we have people who were doing tours, like an organization out of the UK, Aquaba UK, had been bringing people into Ghana, during the holiday season to come and enjoy themselves. And then you had the Joseph Project in 2007, which was inviting diaspora again. And then you get to 2019 with the year of return, and it was just boom. So the history of the country already helped with that slow moving trajectory. And then with it being the advent of social media, the social media era is what really made it go like
Mm.
compared to previous times. That the social media reach was absolutely astronomical. And it is what helped boost it better than anything else, And I think Ghana, in connecting with people, Ghana is a place that's very welcoming. And it's also a place that people in the diaspora, a lot of them coming from North America, speak English. It's an English speaking country.
Mm-hmm.
And um, the people are always welcoming to foreigners. They're always like happy to see people. And um, I think the history of the transatlantic slave trade is also another reason why a lot of people come here now. There are other countries that have the forts as well. Like you could go to Nigeria, you could go to Senegal, you can go to other countries and find some of these slave forts, the historical sites. I feel like Ghana's buildings have been maintained the best. I haven't been to the other countries to be able to speak on theirs, but I know from people who've told me that they've visited other countries, they've told me that Ghana's structure has been maintained well for tourism, for people to be able to come and see. I think that also helps as well. And culture, people love culture. People love seeing the
Mm.
culture of
Mm.
Ghana, the way people maintain it and the way people welcome you with it. Like you see people at the airport with the culture and stuff. So I think those are all elements that come together
Mm.
for Ghana's growth in the tourism space. Because historically, tourism has been huge in Africa, in South Africa, and in
Mm.
like Morocco, in Egypt. Like those are the places that you really heard a lot about tourism in Africa, or Kenya for the safaris. So West Africa is kind of like it's growing and Ghana's leading the way.
Mm. I love that you said that it Pan African. It was Pan Africanism. Back in MLK's time. They've always been making those trips, and it makes me. The question that came to my mind was, when you see people move and they make that jump, is it leaned more towards, I want to say, let's say, just a relocating, almost like random place on the map? You know what I mean? Could have been anywhere. Or do you also encourage people to lead with that? I want to say that deeper reason behind it. Or do you not mind if someone solely moves just off of, I want to say, I don't know, it could have been anywhere. Or do you get what I'm trying to say with that question?
I think that people move to places for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they necessarily have to be fueled by the idea of Pan-Africanism.
Mm,
However, I think that moving to a developing country, because also have to remember it's a developing country.
mm-hmm.
Even though there are a lot of change, there's a lot of change, a lot of modern facilities. There's also a lot of things that are still in development, things that are still
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
working the way they're supposed to. You still have some areas where the roads are bad. You still have some areas where,
Mm,
access to water might not be consistent. You might have water 7 days, 6 days a week, and one day you don't have water running in your place. Um, you might have power cuts, and in those cases, you have to plan to have like solar power or plan to have a generator. So I say have a reason for the move. Try not to move too much on emotion because once the emotion fades away, the reality sets in. And I think that's one of the challenges people have when they move from the diaspora. They come to Ghana and they're like, they're coming from places where they're the minority and they're like, oh my God, everybody's black, everybody's black. Oh my God, everybody's black. Feels good. And, I hear people talk
mm,
about they see billboards, everybody's black on the billboard and the
mm,
commercials, everything is police officers black, that like, the judge is black, like everything is a fascinating thing when you've not been in that type of environment in your whole life. So that novelty slowly ends up wearing off. And then
mm.
reality sets in that, okay, I'm in a new country and I have to actually live here. I have to find a way to make money. I have to, do my day to day because it's not 100%, you're not moving to a paradise where you're just doing nothing. Unless
Mm-hmm.
you're a multimillionaire, billionaire, and you don't have to do anything. You just want to just come and retire and you have lots of money, so you don't have to do anything. You just relax and you pay everybody to do everything for you. Um, Build a huge mansion that's, luxurious that you can just relax in all the time. But the average person is not coming here as a multimillionaire. They're coming here as an average person,
Mm.
average salaries and stuff. So it's important that you think about all those things before you make the move. So yeah, that's my advice. Try not to move too much on emotion. Yes, emotion is part of it, but have a solid plan as to what it is you want to do once all of the excitement wears off. Because no matter where you move, there's always excitement in the beginning, and eventually it will wear off.
You know, as you were speaking and mentioning the honest parts of Africa, my little young self came out. The one that was going to high school with European kids, and whenever something, about Africa's poverty or Africa's struggle
Yeah.
was brought up, I'd flinch and cringe and hope that I didn't scare people off, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
about where I was from. And the more that I've grown, I think one of the most powerful things that my mother offered to me, when she's probably one of my greatest mentors when it comes to Pan African mindset, is understanding how. Let me say it like this: what does civilized even mean? Who determines what civilized? Who determines what advanced is? Right. So you're mentioning some of the cons that happen in Africa, but then we also have to have a Pan African mindset where we don't try to always size things up with the Western world. And that
Hmm.
way, even when we're actually determining the values that Africa has, we're better able to see those values and those pros, because we're no longer looking at it through a Western lens, right?
Hmm.
So you're mentioning, okay, there might be water cut off, there might be this cut off, or whatever. But I was even talking to the CEO of African Stream, and he was also mentioning the quote unquote cons, and then also mentioning, but when you have a Pan African mindset, the pros outweigh them, but you have to have that lens and understanding of, like, I mean, if you're looking at it through the lens of a Western world. So now I pass the question on to you, as someone who lived and was raised in Canada and raised in the Western world and got used to water never cutting off, and got used to all these different type of things, and now you have dual perspective. How has that shaped your approach when advising, or storytelling for the diasporans?
Honestly, I have my frustrations too. as you said, I'm used to coming from a place where water is never cut off. If it's cut off, it's because some kind of accident or emergency happened. Like, you know, maybe it was like a somebody doing construction and a pipe got cut by mistake. But it's not a normal thing to be like, oh, every week my water's going to be off at least once or twice, sometimes three times. You know, it's not something that you ever have to deal with. So it is a frustration. The reality is, yeah, I give people advice on coming to Ghana, but I am not immune to feeling those frustrations as well, because trust me, I'm a human being. And there's times when I'll be like, what am I doing? Why am I here? Why am I dealing with this? I don't have to deal with this. And then I have to remind myself that I have a purpose, and the whole purpose is about changing the narrative of Africa. And change doesn't happen if everybody abandons Africa. That's the thing is so many
Mm,
people abandon it, and then it never gets to go to where it can go because everybody keeps abandoning. It's like having a baby and then you are working on, growing your baby, and then you're just like, oh, I'm frustrated with this child. This child isn't even speaking a full sentence. Let me just leave the kid and leave and go
mhm,
find a kid that already is fully talking in conversation, and I can just enjoy my freedom of having conversation with a grown child already. It's like
mhm,
that. It's like everybody keeps abandoning her. So she never gets to be fully to her
mhm,
full potential.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, definitely, and I understand his frustrations, but there is major pros when it comes to like one of the things I can
Of
sure
course
that
there's pros.
yeah, I'm sure that doesn't happen in Africa is the miserableness of Western world, especially here in the UK. People can just be miserable. People are hooked on depression tablets. People are, there's a different air even with how people, connect with each other in comparison. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I mean, there's a sense of community here.
Right.
So that sense of community is what helps people, keep going and stay strong and even do some of the things that you do. Because,
Mm.
um, for example, it's like there was a time that I was sick, and usually people always see me coming and going, coming and going. But then when I was sick, I wasn't leaving my house. I was in the house. I wasn't leaving. And then, someone actually came to
Wow.
my gate, and she was like, they haven't seen me. They used to usually see me going
Wow.
up and down. So they were
Wow.
worried that something may have happened to me. Am I
Wow.
okay? That
Wow.
would never happen when I was living in Toronto. No, my
Wow.
neighbors would have never come and checked to be like, we haven't seen you in a while. Are you
Exactly.
okay? Nobody does these
Exactly.
check-ins, but that's the kind of sense of community here. And even like there was a time when, I didn't have any money on me, and I had left my card at home, so I didn't have any money to even my mobile money didn't have anything in it. And the salon was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll do your hair still. Just pay us next time." Do you think that would ever happen
Mm.
in Canada? Nobody would be like, "Oh,
Yes.
just pay us next time. We'll do your hair. We'll pay us next time." But there's like this trust that people gain with you, and then, they start to do things like that. Then when I was able to go back, I went back and you'd be able to pay her the money back. So, that sense of community and coming together and being of support of each other is also something that's good for people's mental health and well-being. I think um, it supersedes some of the negatives that people say they experience. People say, yeah, there's challenges in Ghana, but on the other side, there are things that make it really beneficial to live here. People like
Mm-hmm.
the sense of community and family, and also, I've heard people say that they like sometimes the simplicity of things, that things are not
Mm-hmm.
so fast paced.
Yes.
Sometimes they like the
Yes.
simplicity and just, and people socialize, after work, people socialize and that kind of thing. So, um, and you would never know that some people are, might be having a hard time financially because people always have a smile
Yes.
on their face. They find a way to make it through. And then that is also part of the morale boosting and stuff. And also, I think people love the idea of starting something where there's this potential for it to become a big business, and they
Right.
feel like there's not a glass ceiling. They feel like in North America or in Europe, they feel like there's a
Right,
glass ceiling
right.
as to how far they can
Yes.
go with something. Also, so they
Yes.
feel like sometimes there's a lot of red tape with trying to do stuff. They
Yeah.
feel like there's gatekeepers, whereas here they
Yeah.
feel like they can just come and start something. They can come
Yeah.
and they know that, oh, this crop is growing here. Maybe I can harvest
Yeah.
this crop and make it into a
Yeah.
business and sell it, export it, whatever. So they feel like the barrier to entry in some of these things is a lot easier than if you're trying to fight a bureaucracy of
Yeah.
a society that may have, a white supremacist ideal on things,
Right.
or anti-immigrant sentiments that people
Right.
experience, anti-Black experience. Like there's so many things that
Right.
people feel are a hindrance for them in the countries they're living in that makes a place like Ghana become appealing to them, even if it has
Yeah.
challenges. They're like, those other things are more important than the challenges.
Yeah. 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 And it will slowly fizzle away. And I'm so confident that, especially people like you and doing what you're doing. My next question is, what advice would you give to someone in the diaspora, especially first timers who are interested in visiting, investing, or even relocating to Ghana?
My advice, hack your patience. Hack your patience
Pack your
because,
patience.
yes, patience, be patient, patient, time.
Hmm.
Ghanaians don't take
No, but I
time
like how you
seriously.
said. I like how you said pack it. Like
Yes,
bring it with you.
bring it, bring it, bring plenty of it because Ghanaians don't respect time. If someone tells you something's at 9 o'clock in the morning, it's probably not starting till 11. They tell you something's at 12, it's probably not starting till 2. Things are always late. Things are always like an hour, 2 hours late. And it can be a real frustration for someone who's used to things remaining on a schedule. People
Right.
are used to things being like on a time schedule. When you come here, it becomes so difficult to adjust to that whole concept of things not starting on time. So pack your patience. That's a top one. Pack your patience. What else can I say? Plan very well. If you're planning to visit, you're going to have an amazing experience. Um, Bring more money than you expect because people think Ghana's a cheap place. It's not as cheap as you think. Even when you
Mm,
exchange your money and you get a lot back, it feels like, oh, wow, it's going to go far. But then you realize that, oh, you know what? Things are more expensive than I had calculated. So,
mm,
prepare to spend a little bit more than what you anticipated. Um, know that most places do not take American Express. So if you're coming with American Express, almost nobody accepts it. I think there's like two hotels that will accept American Express. No one else does. Um, it's a cash society, so have a lot of cash on hand. Um, when you come with cash, come with bigger bills because a lot of the Forex places will give you better exchange rate on bigger bills than on smaller bills
okay.
when you're changing your money. What else? Just be friendly to people. People
Mm,
love foreigners. They love seeing people come. They love seeing Black people coming more than before. There
mm,
it's really a positive experience. And be open-minded. Be open-minded about trying different things. Because sometimes people go places and because I've met some people, especially I shouldn't say especially, but more numbers of African Americans than other groups that sometimes aren't as open to try new foods and looking for things that they're used to all the time. So, like for example, there was somebody who was like, just need to go to KFC. They just need to go to KFC or the Burger King and the Pizza Hut that's here. So it's like, okay, so you've traveled all the way around the world and you just want to eat KFC, Pizza Hut, and Burger King? Like, why? You're in a new place. Try something new. Try something different. And
mm,
even if you want to have a
mm,
burger, at least have a burger from a local person that might make it with a twist, with some kind of spice in it that
mm,
gives you something different.
mm,
So be open to try something new.
mm.
Yeah.
I like that. I see. This is what I'm trying to get to. This is. I love this kind of stuff where I believe that's the true essence of Pan Africanism. It's just really taking off the judging of everything through a Western lens. And if you're trying something new and seeing and you're waiting for KFC, or like I think one of the moments for me, I know this not well, it is technically not Western, but I remember when I went to LA, one of the things I fell in love with more than anything was like getting tacos out of like some Mexican lady's van, like that she was making with her husband. And the other one was they would. I think my Mexicans watching this would know this. I think they put corn on like a cob, and they filled it with like sweet things, and they kind of make it there. We had a Mexican friend. He was like, "Yo, bro, you gotta get this. It's a Mexican thing." And there was a woman who was moving across with a cat. And it's like that, right? It's kind of like you said, just embracing the culture for what it is. And I think we're very good at doing that when we go to Italy, or very good at doing that when we go to Spain, or to, I don't know, Greece, or any other European place like that, Portugal. But when it's an African place, I think it is a bit more of a struggle. Even maybe even Dubai, but it's a bit more of a struggle. And I love when we're changing the narrative. And as a content creator, you've done an amazing job at really changing that narrative. And I wanted to know, like, why is storytelling so important, for changing perceptions of Africa?
Storytelling is the way that humans understand things. I mean, since, you know, beginning of times, you hear stories. I mean, people are following a whole religion because of stories in the Bible, stories in the Quran, stories. Human
Mm,
beings understand stories, and that is what changes their mind about things, shapes their perception about things. Movies and TV shows are stories and ways that countries shape the minds of its people and the minds of people around the world. The US is genius in marketing itself
oh,
through
definitely.
film, through film. And I don't know how true this is, but I was told by someone that there's a bureau in the U.S. government that actually funds some films, puts money in investing in some films, and if you're going to be a government investing in some films, you're going to have a vested interest in making sure that those stories are told in a way that it sheds some kind of positive light on your country. And what the US has done brilliantly, and I'm talking about the US as an example, just to talk about the power of storytelling and visuals. They've managed to train the world, many people in the world, to feel like America is the savior country.
Yeah.
And if you are having trouble, that they are going to come and save the day. And they do it through movies. Look how many
Yeah.
movies that they'll be like, an alien force is coming to the world and an American saves the day. There's some kind of uh, conflict that breaks out and an American saves the day. There's some criminal running around the world, breaking into banks, stealing this, stealing that, and an American saves the day. And when they save the day, they're standing on some hill, there's wind blowing, and in the background is an American flag that's subconsciously telling you an American did this shit. An American saved the day. And they're just standing there. And then you hear the orchestra, the music, and it's getting to your emotions. And you're just like, oh,
Oh,
this is
the endorphins are just popping out, isn't it?
power
Wow.
of storytelling,
Wow.
the power of
Wow.
visuals, the
Wow.
power of music to bring it all
Wow.
together.
Is the guy white? By
That
the way,
is
I'm just
why
asking. In that story, is the dude white or is he black or?
in this story, it doesn't matter who it is because it could be Will Smith, it could be Tom, what's his name? Mission Impossible guy, Tom Cruise.
Tom, I was gonna say Brad Pitt. I don't know why, but it's the same thing.
Tom Cruise. So whether it's Tom Cruise or it's Will Smith or whoever, or the guy who plays James Bond. Actually, the guy who's James Bond is
British.
British, I think.
Same thing.
But they tell their stories
You're right. You're
with
right.
their narrative that
Yeah.
they've saved the day.
Yeah.
And these movies become global blockbusters. global
Yeah,
blockbusters. So
yeah,
everyone around the world is watching this. Everyone around the world is being subconsciously told that an American saved the day in this movie again. Another movie, another American saved the day. So I'm saying this because they have mastered the
yeah,
art of storytelling
yeah,
through 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 film, through TV,
yeah, yeah,
through visuals, and I think it's something that we need to do more of in the continent of Africa. We need to tell more of our stories. We
yeah,
need to tell more of, these historical documentaries about people who are of significance in the African
yeah,
continent. But the challenge is we don't have access to the same amount of money that they do. They have lots of millions of
right,
dollars of access to create these
yeah,
huge, extravagant productions that we don't
yeah,
always have access to, because some of these movies are costing like 30-40 million dollars to produce,
yeah,
and a lot of African filmmakers can't even get access to $1 million to make a movie. So it becomes difficult for us to tell our stories, which is why using social media as a tool now is an opportunity for people to tell their stories. I think that one of the ways that Africans are leading is through citizen journalism. So you're a citizen, you live somewhere, something's happening, you've taken out your phone and you're telling a story from our perspective. You're being
yeah,
able to
yeah,
tell the narrative without it being filtered by the West, because it
yeah,
used to be there's only like three TV stations,
yeah,
three,
yeah,
four TV stations.
yeah,
So they control the narrative completely, and then you don't have much say. And so, but now with the social media, people are able to tell their stories. If they're in a country where they have freedom to do so, it's even easier. And that's one of the other things people love about Ghana. Ghana is a pretty free country. People
okay,
be insult Ghanaians will be insulting the president, Ghanaians will be insulting some politician, and nobody's doing anything. But there are some
okay,
countries that if you open your mouth to insult a politician, you might be going to jail, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
So
yeah,
Ghana is a place that people can do this, tell their stories, their express their opinions. Some years ago, there was a story, and I can't remember if it was BBC or CNN that did a story about Ghana saying that people were starving, that food was scarce food. People are in line because food is scarce in Ghana. The way Ghanaians on Twitter dragged that person and was
wow,
like, "What are you talking about? I was
wow,
just here. This is not, people are not starving. People are posting now they're posting the reality on the ground
there
because they
you
have their
go,
phone.
there you
Whereas in the
go,
past, if that person did that story on CBC, CNN, BBC, the Africans would be powerless to change the story. But now
yeah,
they were like out there saying people are in line to buy rice because that lady on this down that street makes the best wache compared to this person. They're buying wache. This is the wache seller is the best. That one is terrible. So everybody's in line for this one. So you see it as a line that we're scarce for food, but we're in line because she has the best wache in town.
wow,
So it's like controlling your narrative. You have the
you know,
power to tell your story now without someone else trying to dictate what it is. So eventually, after dragging them, I can't remember if they took the story down or they changed the story, but it was huge the way that people were able to just bring to light that no, they're like, no, there's not scarcity. We're just going for the best watching.
wow, and exactly what you said there. I mentioned earlier in this in the show about my mother, some of the stuff that she taught me, and I remember one time it was one of those like statistics, like, oh, the average woman in Nigeria makes, I don't know, £2 an hour or something like that along the lines, and she was like, Harrison, that's a very skewed statistic because a lot of people can live off the land. They don't have to make such and such an hour. Many of us have to go to the grocery store. A lot of people, like I know my mother-in-law, not my mother-in-law, my brother's mother-in-law, she has a choice to live in the suburbs or live in the rurals, and she enjoys the rurals. She makes off her land. She makes off the this. A lot of them, if they need something, go out to the back and they cut their chicken by themselves. You don't have to worry about someone else injecting the chicken. You ain't got to worry about what they did to make this sell more or to make it, you know what I mean, kind of like for greater profit. You literally get it raw right there. And my mom also always tells me, it's like, Harrison, you ain't really had in Zimbabwe. My mom's Zimbabwean. You ain't really had sadza until you have sadza in, and every time I'd make it, I'll be enjoying it. And she's like, oh, the sadza here is just, You know what I mean? So it's kind of like these little things, or even the chicken here is just, you know what I mean? Whereas they, you know what I mean, are literally getting to kill that goat, kill that chicken right there and then. So then we look at a statistic through the Western world and say, oh, the average such and such is making such and such. But it's kind of like you just said there, no, the one that she's making is even fresher. It's even, you know, that kind of way. So it's just like, this is why it's so important to grasp those narratives, because those statistics be so Western, you know, I don't know, dominant, or just so corrupted by Western perception that we need to really set things through our own lens, which is such an amazing point to make. And I wanted to move on to our next question. You work very closely as an advisor with us here at Pan African Lifestyle, and this partnership is something that we are really, really proud of. And we wanted to ask you today, how do you see this partnership further supporting people who want to make the journey to Africa?
I see it as a good one because a lot of people have a lot of respect for your organization, Pan African Lifestyle, with you, sharing content from a lot of sources with respect to the diaspora around the world. And I'm sure a lot of people had started reaching out to you with respect to, the repatriation, visiting the continent. And it's good that you've collaborated with not only myself, but other people who are also advisors for opportunities on the continent. So I think it opens me up to a new audience, and it also, opens you up to, my audience and different things. So I think it's been a good partnership, and I look forward to it continuing, and with you also having it with others as well from other countries that also people are interested in, because it's not only Ghana people are interested in, Kenya, the Gambia, and different places.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Amazing. And, you know, Ivy, it's been such a pleasure to have you on today. We've touched on such important topics, and I can't wait for the people at home to have this and have their awakening moments. And that's what it's about, right? So continue to just keep pushing. Like you said, there are bumps in the road. There are certain things that make you feel frustrated. You even as I want to say a progressive Pan Africanist, you know, still can bump into frustrations, but you know, it still doesn't mean that it is to give up on your nation, you know. And I personally, someone who is a diasporan, I want to say thank you for leading the way. Before I let you go, I want to ask you, how do you, in your own words, define the African dream?
The African dream is living up to your fullest potential on the African continent. Um, and that can manifest in different ways for different people. But it's realizing that the opportunities in Africa can actually be the greatest benefit to you than anywhere else in the world. So it's your opportunity to shine in a space that won't try to hold you down and won't try to hold you back. It's an opportunity to reach your greatest potential without looking behind your back and thinking,
Mm-hmm.
is there somebody who's going to try to hold me back because I'm a Black
Mm-hmm.
person? It's
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity for you to become your greatest self. So that's how I see the African dream, is being able to manifest the greatness that you are,
Mm-hmm.
on the continent, through the continent,
Mm-hmm.
and with its people.
Ivy, thank you so much. Ivy Prosper, thank you so much. On behalf of the PAL show, on behalf of the PAL audience, thank you so much for coming on today. God bless you. We're going to be praying for you that you continue to lead the way as a trailblazer. Everything you've done, congratulations on all the accomplishments you've had. And we know many, many more is to come. So thank you so much for all of your passion, your drive. And here we just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you too. Thank you so much as well.
And again, to our pals, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And it's been a pleasure having you here always. We always love hearing from you. Please make sure in the comments you let us know what part of today's dialogue sparked new thinking, new pride, and most importantly, new action. I've been your host, Harrison Paul. Thanks again.
Living a dream, living the African dream.